Welcome to the Kaur & Singh VAAD-VIVAAD debate show. We are officially in the competition. This is a one-of-a-kind Sikh youth debate program telecast exclusively on JUS Punjabi, brought to you in collaboration with Nishkam TV and JUS Punjabi. I am your host, Ashmita. If you've been following along, then you've seen our contestants battle it out on the debate stage. They may be arguing against or for the same resolution, but their arguments are as varied as can be. We are 2 debates into the competition. Last week, we saw Jasjot Singh and Sameer Harkewal battle it out. Jasjot Singh took the win, both from the judges as well as your audience favorites. Of course, you can see the breakdown of Jasjot's win in the audience poll on the screen. This week, we continue on with debate 3 of the competition. This week's contestants, Meher Kaur and Sumer Singh, take the stage for the first time to battle it out. Let's meet our contestants.
Hi, what's your name and where are you from?
I'm Meher Dal, and I'm from Hopkinton, Massachusetts.
How do you feel about the debate today?
I'm mostly excited, but just a little bit nervous.
I know this took a lot of effort. How much time did you spend preparing?
I think I spent a good amount of time preparing. I'm ready to go into this debate, and I'm excited to see what my opponent has to say.
Sounds good. Good luck. What's your name and where are you from?
My name's Sameer Singh and I'm from Massachusetts.
How do you feel today?
Nervous but excited.
Any strategies for your debate?
Just be clear with my words, be concise.
Sounds good. Good luck.
Now that we've gotten to know the contestants, let's welcome them on the stage and kick off this competition. Please join me in welcoming, arguing the pro side, Meher Kaur, and arguing for the neg side, Sumer Singh. Remember, you can vote for your audience favorite contestant at any point throughout the debate by scanning the QR code below. Make sure to get your vote in before the end of the program as we do tally and reveal the winner at the end of the episode. So please join me in welcoming, arguing on the pro side, Meher Kaur. Meher, welcome to the competition. And arguing the neg side, Sumer Singh. Sumer, good to have you. Once again, I want to remind all of our viewers that this competition will entail every contestant arguing in favor of the resolution, the pro side, and against the resolution, the neg side. In the quarterfinals, you will also see the contestants switch sides and argue in another debate, the opposing view. So we really get different perspectives and different arguments from every single contestant. Before we kick off this debate, of course, Meher, Sumer, please shake hands. Once again, you are watching the VAAD-VIVAAD debate competition. Our contestants have entered the stage. This is debate number 3 of the quarterfinals. Meher, Sumer, how are you guys feeling right now?
I'm feeling excited, a little bit nervous, but overall good.
Do you feel a little different now that you're on the podium? You have the audience, the cameras. How are you feeling, Sumer?
It's completely different, completely shifted, but I'm excited as well.
Wonderful. Well, I wish you both the best of luck, and let's get this debate started.
Okay, then we'll start with Meher as the pro, and you'll have your 4-minute speech beginning now.
I affirm the resolution that a Gurdwara is a place of worship for Sikhs. My value is Sikhi. Sikhi emphasizes devotion to Vaheguru through prayer, meditation, and reflection. The Gurdwara, as the house of the Guru, is primarily a spiritual space where Sikhs focus on their relationship with Vaheguru. In my moral framework is preserving the role of worship. Preserving the sacred role of the Gurdwara ensures it remains aligned with the central principles of Sikhi, such as Nam Japna and spiritual growth, as envisioned by the Gurus. Now, Building upon the topic of worship, my first contention is the Gurdwara's architectural design emphasizes worship. The architecture and design of Gurdwaras are integral to their function as places of worship, where the Guru Granth Sahib is placed on an elevated throne, the Palki Sahib. As the BBC states, the platform on which the Guru Granth Sahib is placed emphasizes the scripture's central role in Sikh worship and reflects the overall spiritual intent of the Gurdwara's architecture. As the most significant Gurdwara, Harmandir Sahib showcases architecture that reinforces its role as a spiritual sanctuary. Its design elements, including the dome and 4 entrances, signifies a religious sanctuary, attracting Sikhs and others seeking a place for spiritual refuge. The protocols for entry, including removing shoes, covering one's head, and washing hands, signify reverence for the sacred space, underlying its primary role in worship. Building on this idea, the second contention shows how other functions of a Gurdwara are extensions of their identity as places of worship. Community services and education are rooted in Sikh practices. For example, langar and seva are essential aspects of the Gurdwara, but are deeply tied to the spiritual principles of equality and humility. These practices arise from Sikh worship and do not redefine the Gurdwara's primary identity. Adding on, Gurdwaras teach Sikh scripture and history to deepen one's understanding of Sikhism. The Sikh Missionary Society explains Guru Nanak's influence and how he emphasized the importance of education alongside worship and nurturing an environment where individuals could grow spiritually too. Without the foundation of worship, these roles lose their significance. Furthermore, making a Gurdwara a multi-purpose venue risks overshadowing its sacredness. If Gurdwaras are seen primarily as community centers, the reverence for worship practices may decrease, leading to distraction from Sikhi spiritual goals. Contention 3. The Guru's teachings center on worship. Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the founder of Sikhi, emphasized devotion to Vaheguru as the ultimate path to liberation. While Sikhi values community service and education, these stem from a foundation of spiritual worship, which must remain the Gurdwara's primary role. Bani Guru, Guru Hai Bani, which Bani Amrit Sare. This ang, written by Guru Ramdas Ji, emphasizes the central role of Gurdwaras as focusing on devotion and spiritual guidance, and also reinforces that the Guru Granth Sahib is central to Sikhi. Adding on, the Gurdwara, as the home of the Guru, must prioritize worship over all other functions. I conclude my first speech.
All right, Samir, would you like to use any of your prep time?
Yes, please. Can I have 2.5 minutes?
Sounds good. This concludes your 2.5 minutes of prep time. You now have 7 minutes to do your first constructive speech and rebuttal, starting now.
I negate the resolution a Gurdwara is a place of worship. My value is Sikhi, therefore my Sikh framework is community. Before I begin, it is important to know for clarity, the affirmative case is arguing that the Gurdwara is only a place of worship, while my neg case is arguing that it is a place of worship, but also so many other facets. My first contention is worship does not require a physical Gurdwara building. In an article by the BBC, it states the Guru Granth Sahib is the Sikh holy book. Sikhs believe that the Guru Granth Sahib is the eternal Guru. Any building that holds a copy of the Guru Granth Sahib is known as a place of worship. Our Gurus did Paat, even sitting on horses and even living in jungles. We all do Paat at our homes too. The Gurdwara obviously has the Darbar Sahib, in which it can be said, it is a place of worship. However, it is the other aspects of the Gurdwara which, when brought together with reciting Bani, that truly demonstrate the multifaceted purpose of a Gurdwara. Furthermore, it is our Sangat and community which separates doing Paat in the Darbar Sahib versus doing it in the comfort of your own home. My second contention is Gurdwaras serve multiple essential functions beyond worship. In an article by the Guru Gobind Singh Foundation, it states at the center of Sikh teaching about equality is the langar. That's why it is so important. Langar is a way for people to interact and form relationships regardless of their differences. People of different religions come and do seva and eat langar together. How many times have you seen langar made or eaten alone? Never. This shared sense of purpose is what brings people together. In an article by the GSSA Bridgewater, it states Khalsa School accomplishes this through the teaching of the Punjabi language, Gurmukhi script, providing children with the ability to read and understand Sikh scriptures. This is one of the many programs that abide by these same intentions in order to better understand Sikhism. Gurmukhi is not merely a script, but a cornerstone of the Sikh identity. Without teaching our youth Gurmukhi, it is impossible to preserve our Sikh identity as it is passed through generations. So, the langar and learning aspects bring our people together as a community and truly represent the Gurdwara as not only a place of worship, but also a community gathering place or a learning center. My third contention is the concept of Miri Piri demands a broader definition of Gurdwaras. Representing the essence of this, I give the following Gurbani line. Raj, Jog, Takat, Dhyan, Guru Ramdas. This means Guru Ramdas blessed us with sovereignty and spiritual enlightenment. In an article by the Sikh Encyclopedia, it states Miri Piri is a basic principle which has influenced the Sikh thought process and has governed their social structure, political behavior, communal organization, leadership, and politics. A person should not neglect worldly duties while pursuing spiritual growth, and vice versa. This duality of Miri Piri encourages Sikhs to be both spiritually and socially responsible. Khalsa Aid is an organization that embodies the concept of Miri Piri. For instance, assisting earthquake victims shows social action, demonstrating Miri, while keeping in mind the Sarbat Pala, the well-being of all, representing Piri. Miri and Piri must go together to guide a balanced life. Organizations like Khalsa Aid, Nishkam TV, and the Sikh Coalition all begin in the Gurdwara Sahib. These are founded by people in our Sangat and are supported by the people in our communities. If our Gurdwara Sahib wasn't also used as a community gathering place, we wouldn't be able to use our Sikh teachings, which are rooted in Gurdwaras, to empower Sikhs and organizations to engage in worldly responsibilities. I concede the rest of my neg case time and transitioning to the rebuttal. First and foremost, the contention one of the architecture. The architecture isn't mandatory. As I mentioned in my case, you don't have to have a building in order to do what the Gurdwaras, to be able to worship Vaheguru. You can do that in the comfort of your own home or anywhere in the world, on horseback even. The other functions of a Gurdwara are additions, but are also very crucial. As mentioned, the classes and community center are necessities. The langar is so important and allows us to facilitate many relationships with the rest of our Sangat. Langar symbolizes the principle of both seva and equality in action. It is more than just worship. It was constructed to make a new social order in which all four castes are equal. Gurdwaras also celebrate many other things like Vaisakhi as a cultural holiday, which isn't only about the solar calendar but also the lunar calendar. The Gurdwara's positive classes like SAT classes, robotics classes, and so many more all are so much more than worship. It's not just about worshiping. These SAT classes, robotic classes, Gatka classes, all these different classes are not all about worship. In fact, they don't center around worship at all. They're centered about so many other things. These education initiatives demonstrate that the Gurdwara's function as a comprehensive community clearly addresses both the spiritual and practical needs of the Sangat, representing both the Miri and Piri aspects. The Guru's teachings do not all center around worship. As I mentioned, Guru Ramdas blessed us with both spiritual enlightenment and sovereignty, not just spiritual enlightenment. Also, Organizations such as Nishkam TV, Khalsa Aid, the Sikh Coalition, all begin in the Gurdwara. Therefore, although a multitude of their ideologies are surrounded by worship, there are other facets that can be built to support our worldly duties, like Meedi Peedi. I can see the rest of my time.
Mahir, would you like to use your prep time for your rebuttal?
Yes, I would like to use 3 minutes of my prep time.
Starting now. All right, this now concludes your 3 minutes prep time, and you may proceed with your pro rebuttal starting now.
Starting off my rebuttal, the resolution clearly states that this is a discussion about whether it is either about a gurdwara, it's either a place of worship or a community center, not both. Now, contrasting to what my opponent said in his first contention about community service and learning and how gurdwara is just how you can worship in other places. Community service and learning can occur in different venues, but worship requires a sacred and dedicated space like the Gurdwara. As opposed to what my opponent said about not needing a building to worship in his first contention, worship at home or in nature may provide personal connection, but the Gurdwara creates an environment for Sangat, the collective congregation that is central to Sikh practices. This collective worship fosters a sense of unity and equality that cannot be fully replicated in individual settings, as I said in my case. Also, in my opponent's second contention, they stated that Gurdwara can serve other roles like for langar, seva, and learning. The langar is an extension of worship, but not a separate community function. It is a religious practice based on Sikh values of equality and selfless service. And any educational activities such as Sikh history or Punjabi language classes are religiously motivated and meant to deepen faith. Learning within a Gurdwara is spiritually driven, unlike secular schools or community learning centers that provide general education. Now, rebutting the third contention about Meedi Peedi, Sikhs are taught to serve the community, and engaging in politics and standing up to oppression is an extension of worship and what the Gurus intended us to do. Meedi Peedi is important, but you can engage in worldly affairs outside of the Gurdwara. Gurdwara is solely for worship. Now, in conclusion, while the Gurdwara plays multiple roles, its identity as a sacred space for worship must remain the priority. This focus ensures that all other functions, community building, education, and seva, are firmly rooted in Sikh spiritual principles. The affirmative side better aligns with Sikhi and the original intent of the Gurus. I conclude my rebuttal. Yes, could I use my remaining prep time?
All right, Mahir, this concludes your prep time, and you may now begin your 3-minute speech, starting now.
In this debate, I have shown that the Gurdwara's primary role, as defined by Sikh tradition, is as a place of worship. First, the Gurdwara's architectural design emphasizes worship. The centrality of the Guru Granth Sahib, the Palki Sahib, and the protocols for entry signify reverence for the sacred space, underlying its primary role in worship. Next, other functions of a Gurdwara are extensions of their identity as places of worship. Community services and education are rooted in Sikh practices. I explained that langar and seva are essential aspects of the Gurdwara, but are deeply tied to the spiritual principles of equality and humility. Third, I stated that the Guru's teachings center on worship. Guru Nanak Dev Ji emphasized devotion to Vaheguru and community service and education that stem from a foundation of spiritual worship, which must remain the Gurdwara's primary role. While community service and education are integral to Sikhi, they are complementary to worship, not replacements for it. To preserve the sacredness of Gurdwaras and align with Guru Nanak's teachings, we must prioritize their function as spiritual spaces. The defining characteristic of a Gurdwara is its role as a place of worship. The presence of the Guru Granth Sahib, daily prayers, kirtan, and sacred architecture all emphasize that the Gurdwara is fundamentally a spiritual space. Community gatherings, langar, and educational activities, while present, are extensions of the Gurdwara's religious mission. Langar embodies Sikh principles, and educational programs deepen spiritual understanding, making these complementary to worship. The Gurdwara's central role as a place of worship defines its identity, even if it serves other functions. For this reason, I affirm the resolution. I conclude my final speech.
Thank you. So where would you like to use any prep time for your final speech?
I'll take 3 minutes.
All right, so we can now proceed with your final speech. You have 3 minutes starting now.
Firstly, both cases talked about the architecture. My case included the idea that we can worship anywhere, not only in the Gurdwara. And this is a sufficient claim, as before Gurdwaras were even invented, Guru Nanak Dev Ji rode on horseback and worshipped did bought from his own on his own time. And secondly, talking about the langar, I agree. It does have the aspects such as equality and seva, but that is just more than just worship. It includes many other things. It was constructed, as I said, to make a new social order in which all 4 castes are declared equal. In terms of Midi Pidi, you mentioned the idea that we can do Pidi somewhere else, but we have to have both. The idea of Midi Pidi is to have sufficient balance, and in the Gurdwara, not only do we not separate Midi Pidi from doing Midi in the Gurdwara and doing Pidi elsewhere, we have to have the balance of both integrated into the Gurdwara, as that is one of the primary key rules in Sikhi. Fourthly, other functions of the Gurdwara, such as SAT classes, were not refuted. You mentioned the idea of language classes in the langar, but you didn't refute the claims about the SAT classes, the Gatka classes, the robotics classes. All three of those classes, and there were so many more different cases of classes that happened in the Gurdwara, and those were not refuted. It is not only merely a place of worship, but also it is a place for community, it is a place for learning, and it is so much more than just a place where we go to the Darbar Sahib and worship. There's a reason why the Langar Hall is for us to meet with people and to connect based on our religious values, but we meet with each other and we communicate. I concede my time.
All right, debaters, thank you both. This concludes our round.
It was pretty stressful in there. How'd it go?
I think it was good. It was really fun to hear what my opponent had to say, and let's see what the judges think.
Any big changes for your next tournament?
Just like stay confident, stay happy, just have a positive attitude. Yeah.
All right. Do you think you won?
I don't know. Let's see what the judges have to say.
Sounds good. Good luck. It got pretty heated in there. How'd it go?
It was stressful. Still adapting to the stage, and
Any tips for our next contestants?
stay calm. Just keep your composure.
And do you think you won?
It'll be close. We'll see what the judges say.
Sounds good. Good luck.
Judges, how are we feeling?
Pretty good. That was an exciting round, I would say.
Feeling impressed.
Yeah, that was our third debate of the quarterfinals between Meher and Sumer, both from Massachusetts. So we had Meher really focusing on preserving the role of worship and arguing that worship is the foundation for all these other activities that take place. Whereas Sumer was more focused on community and talking about how community underpins worship, community underpins langar, and all these other activities that he brought up with some really, really good evidence. So I will let you guys hash out the details.
Again, I loved Meher's initial speech, and not only did she emphasize the signs of respect we show that indicates the place of worship, she also highlighted the centrality of the Guru Granth Sahib Ji and the Darbar Sahib, even in Harmandir Sahib, how it's a dome centered at it with 4 entrances, kind of, I believe she said, a spiritual refuge.
Right.
So I think that really showed his the spiritual emphasis of a Gurdwara.
Right.
Whereas Sumer, on the other hand, said you don't need any physical place at all because there wasn't even a Gurdwara in the Guru Nanak's time, and he could still worship everything.
Right.
And therefore, the priority of having a Gurdwara as a physical space is to have more opportunities in community and education. And then you guys can follow along on the clash as well. But I think those are the main 2 points.
I think so. I think that going on to their first contentions, one of the things that I appreciated the most was that she Meher underscored the impact of the architecture, like you were describing.
Mm-hmm.
And so then with that, it's obvious that the architecture is very intentional. It wasn't just designed by accident. There was obviously a reason why we not only placed Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji in the middle, but we also elevate, right?
Yeah.
That's a double whammy in terms of why it's showing that it's a place that you worship. I don't know how I feel about Sumer's, yes, in Guru Nanak Dev Ji's time, they had to worship anywhere that they could, that was available to them. But I don't think that, and we can tie into value criterion here for a moment as well, where they clashed a little bit on that. But I think that she made a stronger case for herself in saying that it is important to preserve the role of worship at the Gurdwara Sahib by bringing up all these specific examples. Whereas his contention about that you can do the worship anywhere doesn't necessarily support his value criterion that there's the community and all of that.
See,
I agree.
Yes, I agree, but I think at the same time, because he was speaking to the community, the value criterion, he mentioned at the end of the day, you don't need the physical space as long as you have the sangha that's there. Right? So I think that's the connection to the value that he brought in. And then even when he was talking about, so when Meher tried to give her rebuttal to his first contention, she talked about how, you're saying you don't need a physical space, but that physical space creates the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it creates the environment for Sangat,
right?
Which is Sumer's value point, right? So
right.
Her rebuttal actually, I felt helped his value point rather than her own value point. So I loved her idea and the design and the aspect of the Palki Sahib is higher, central location, and the reverence. But I thought, when in terms of look at the value and yes, preservation is there.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of even the first contention for Sumer, he mentioned, you can take the physical building out of it, but Guru Nanak Dev Ji went to the Sangha themselves, right? It was the Sangha that brought the aspect of this aspect together. So I thought his value was there.
I do think, though, that she kind of did the same thing on turning his argument against him as well when she said community service and learning can also happen outside the Gurdwara, without the physical space.
Right.
And then one other thing I didn't love about Sumer's argument in this area was that he kind of just completely wrote off her first architecture thing as, architecture doesn't matter because, as I said, we don't need a physical place.
Right.
And again, that was on the basis of before Gurdwaras, we could worship anywhere. Yes, that's still true, but you can't just offer everything based on your claim that we don't need a physical place at all. I thought that was a little bit of a lazy approach to refute her point.
Yeah. So in that sense, you have to view it as it's either or.
Yeah.
And I think she did a great job in clarifying that during her rebuttal, saying that no, while I understand how he's trying to frame the argument and build around it, at the end of the day, it is an either or situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then doubling down on that, if we want to move into the second contention,
Yeah.
that these other roles are an extension of that worship. So again, furthermore, making it an either or, because then it's like if you establish that it's a place of worship, then you can absorb the Langar Seva, other forms of Seva into your side then basically by saying that.
One thing that I liked that Sumaira said about that was, like, he was like, yeah, it's because, again, they're speaking to each other,
Right.
right? Because she's saying other functions are tied to worship. And he's pretty much saying, like, yeah, there's multiple functions even beyond worship, right? Like, it's one or two words that makes it all different. But,
Right.
you know, when he was talking about the aspect of Langar, for example, like, she was saying that it is tied to worship. And he went beyond where he's like, you know, we're talking about equality and seva, yes, but it's also a social order.
Right.
Looking at the caste system, right? I thought that was a very strong point, is looking at the social aspect of Langar, right? Looking at beyond just, you know, the seva, beyond just the equality.
Right.
So I mean, that spoke to beyond the worship aspect of it. So I thought that was strong. And then the second strong aspect that I thought Sumaira had for multiple functions beyond just the worship, that also thought it spoke to Meher's value was when you start talking about Khalsa schools, and he was talking about like Gurmukhi specifically and how you can't preserve the Sikh identity without the language.
Right.
So like the need for the school is there, right? And I feel like with the Meher's focus being on preservation, I would have liked her to kind of address that point specifically. Which I didn't like, because she just kind of said that worship defines its identity, whereas like, so she was beating around like the worship and identity is one and the same. But then I thought Sumaira brought a really good point that, you know, what about Langar being a social order as well, and then also Gurmukhi being the preservation for identity. So those two, whereas like from what I understood, Meher's rebuttal to that was, yeah, well, it actually just deepens the faith even more through worship.
Right.
I didn't feel like that was a strong rebuttal to this contention.
I feel like it's kind of like on it's one step forward, one step back, one step forward, one step back. Like that was a little bit of a weaker rebuttal from her side. He had a weaker rebuttal to one of her things.
Although I will say, I think he kind of saved it in the second one when he also brought up things about like Gatka and like even SAT robotics, and that's kind of muddled into his rebuttal and contention. But he followed that through, and I love how he called that out in his crystallization. Because I was also noticing that as well, because that's a very key thing that is very isolated from worship. I think we can all agree that. So I think that really like hit the note for me in taking that second contention. Should we move on to the last contention then?
Yeah, let's do it.
So then, this is all about kind of the Guru's emphasis on whether it should be worship, like priority. And like, I think Meher focused on Guru Nanak Dev Ji specifically on how like, and she quoted a lot of, she had good evidence, everything from Gurbani. And like, she had a quote, I believe in Ang from Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, that showed like the priority of spirituality in Sikhism, which I thought was great. And then Sumaira on the other end went, okay, Miri Puri is heavily emphasized, especially by Guru Ram Das Ji, and then it's been influenced. He had another site to show its influence in like Sikh leadership, politics, community, culture, everything.
Right.
So there, I think he really tied it together as well later on in his rebuttal when he said that Miri Puri, the whole point is that we can't just separate the worldly things and like religious, even though we have both. Like Miri Puri is meant to be the harmony of that, which is why the Gurdwara can be a good place for that.
Right.
So
and I feel like and I don't know if he did this directly or indirectly, probably a little bit more indirectly, but when he talked about the social aspect of Langar, like you were bringing up, right, that it's like it brings equality because everybody is sit on the same level, everybody eats the same meal, in a way that actually contributes to his Miri Puri argument, because at the end of the day, that's using the spiritual connection that we all have as a Sangha to address a worldly issue, which is inequality. So it's like two birds, one stone with that.
And he called out a lot of specific organizations as well, like Khalsa, Vishkam TV, and just talking about how like, if you just view Langar as like a place to worship, then you won't be able to build that community to help the greater Sikh community like thrive. So I think she kind of like touched on that, like you can still connect through worship, but it wasn't strong enough to justify like these organizations could have existed outside of a Gurdwara.
Right.
So
I think even like the evidence that both of them provided, like it was for the third contention that both of them provided, like the Gurbani Tuk that they used. I just felt like the Gurbani Tuk that Meher used with Bani Guru Bani, I felt like her main point being like the main aspect is worship. I feel like there's a lot more specific lines that she could have pulled from Gurbani rather than this one. Whereas for Sumaira's line that he used specifically spoke to how Guru Ram Das Ji's blessed us with sovereignty and like the topic of worship, right? So his Gurbani line and his evidence directly spoke to this contention, whereas I felt like Meher's evidence was a little bit weaker.
So I think going back to the Lincoln Douglas framework, so for Clash, I think it looks like Sumer has gotten the last two contentions.
Yeah.
For valid criterion, I think they both did great on emphasizing preserving the role of worship and community. But I feel like Sumer kind of hit it on the nail with the idea of community and harmony and carrying that through. I wish Meher spent a little more time talking about why it's so much more important to preserve the role of worship over community.
Right.
So I think maybe we can give that one to Sumer.
I think that's a very good point you brought up, where if she should have focused more on like the role of preservation of the worship, right? Like I felt like she didn't do it in her.
Yeah. Overall, I think it looks like we have a winner.
Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty.
Nihal, you want to do the honor
Sure,
of deciding
of course.
again?
Yeah, of course.
So the first logical fallacy we're going to talk about, this is something that we've all experienced. The Latin word for it is ad hominem, which means basically it's something akin to a personal attack. It's when we attack the person giving the arguments instead of the argument itself. So the most obvious example of this is an insult. We've all watched those kind of Punjabi debate shows where the two debaters get very heated up, at some point maybe even doing gala to each other. But that's just one form of ad hominem. But it can be something as simple as, you're so young, you don't know these things, or, what is your experience in Sikhi? You don't know these things, right? While these things, for practice, that's one thing. When you're debating, if someone gives an argument, you have to attack the argument itself, right? Attacking whoever said the argument is not really productive for the sake of a good debate. And the purpose of a good debate is to get the truth of something. Even if someone has no, let's say, credibility or functions, someone's very young, maybe someone doesn't have that much experience. If they give a good argument, they give a good argument, and you have to address that argument. Otherwise, you could be guilty of doing an ad hominem yourself. So in this segment, I'll be taking some of the lessons I've been teaching the students as a coach and giving them the wider audience. So I hope you all enjoy and hope you all learn something so we can apply this in our day-to-day lives, and we can help, this will help us as a panth learn how to agree and disagree with each other in a more productive way.
Welcome back from the break. You're watching the Kaur & Singh VAAD-VIVAAD debate show. Not only have you met our contestants and gotten to know how they're feeling and what their experience has been so far, but you've seen their training on display at the podium. And you've been voting for your favorites. It's now time to reveal who the audience favorite is for this week. Meher, congratulations! Meher, what would you like to say to the viewers at home?
Thank you, and thank you everyone for your support, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
And now, to go to the judges' decision for this debate. Once again, the judges are following the Lincoln Douglas value framework in how they judge. All of the contestants have applied certain values to their debate. And for this particular decision, the judges have determined whether the clash between the contestants and their quality of evidence, and of course, the framework that they've presented meets the criteria for a successful debater. And the winner for debate 3 of the quarterfinals of the VAAD-VIVAAD debate competition is Sumer Singh. Congratulations. Thank you for watching the Kaur & Singh VAAD-VIVAAD debate program. We are halfway through the quarterfinals, and this competition is just heating up. Next week, we will have another pair of contestants and another fiery debate. Till then, if you missed any of this program, be sure to check out our social media pages for past episodes. And of course, you can always write to us with your questions and comments at ashmita@justbroadcasting.com and info@justbroadcasting.com. Till then, it has been a pleasure. This is your host, Ashmita, signing off. We'll see you next week.
I'm Upkaran Singh Pogal, a tech professional and real estate investor. Like many people, I used to think the only way to build wealth was by working hard at a 9-to-5 job. That all changed when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The book opened my eyes to the power of investing, how real estate can create passive income and long-term wealth rather than just relying on a paycheck. I realized that building a portfolio of properties was a way to create financial freedom and gain control over my future. So, I dove into real estate investing, and let me tell you, it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. Investing is key to securing financial independence. Whether you're looking for side income or a long-term strategy, real estate can make it happen. I'm passionate about giving back and teaching others how to get started on their investing journey too. So, if you're interested in learning more about real estate investing, feel free to follow me on Instagram and shoot me a DM.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. This is Harman Singh, Executive Director of the Sikh Coalition. For more than 20 years, the Sikh Coalition has worked to reduce hate, violence, and discrimination experienced by the Sikh community. Nationwide, we work in the court system, in policy, in education, community development, and media and communications to raise the Sikh profile and build a new future for Sikh youth. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.